party launching its ANC barometer, and this aims to be the monitoring tool of performances of local councillors. This is for ANC-led municipalities. We're joined by the ANC's Deputy Secretary General, Jessie Durate, for more on this. So, Ms. Durate, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. We had, of course, earlier on today the launching of this Afrobarometer, not Afrobarometer, but this barometer that will effectively be a tool looking into municipalities. But we also had a couple of hours ago today the ANC issuing a statement bemoaning the state of load shedding in this country and describing the situation that we're in, particularly information and transparency, as being inconsistent, and that there's a lack of transparency and also a lack of accountability. Is it purely coincidental that a couple of hours later we then hear from Minister Pravin Gordhan and the Eskom CEO on this issue of electricity?
Well, Kathy, we've been in contact with our minister today. Certainly our responsibility as the ANC is to convey to the minister the severity with which the people on the ground experience load shedding and what they say about it. So, you know, the minister, I'm very grateful that the minister has put out that there will be a restoration of some megawatts of energy, and we will go down to level 3, and then over the weekend and on election day there will be no load shedding. But the issue that we're raising is the fact that it seems to us that for months and months on end, the Eskom management doesn't explain what their problem in fact is. They don't go out and tell the public that, you know, we have problems in the management system, we don't have enough engineers have left our company, and so on and so forth. And neither do they say what they're doing to rectify that situation so that load shedding can be stemmed. We're glad that the minister says that there will be consequences for non-performance, but it is not only non-performance that we're concerned about. And we do believe, and we use strong language. We said we think that there's sabotage to disrupt the elections. So we're also happy that Minister Gordhan has assured all of us that there will be no load shedding on election day. And you know, we hope that that is going to be exactly like that. We are concerned with what's going on inside of Eskom. The management has had some time now to understand the problem. And surely when you understand the problem, you must be able to articulate your short-term, medium and long-term solutions to those problems, which are outside the generation question. We all understand that there isn't enough generation at the moment, that the 2 plants that had been commissioned in the 2000 era have not delivered the amount of electricity that we need. But then what is the solution that is really going to come out of this really large company that is a distributor of electricity to our people? You know, Kathy, if I may call you by your first name, my humble apology. I don't normally do that, and I hope you're not offended. In Soweto, for example, we know that there's indiscriminate cutting off of electricity. So in a block where 40 people haven't paid the electricity, but 60 others have paid, all of the 100 people in that block electricity gets cut. Surely there must be a way to correct that. We also understand that Eskom has now started fixing the mini substations, and they're down to fixing 35 that are left. So what we want to see is greater explanation, greater accountability from the management of Eskom to the public. We understand that the minister makes policy, yes, we accept that, and that what we will do as of now is we'll also call on Parliament to play a much bigger oversight role on the operations within Eskom to see what exactly is going on. It seems just, you know, you can't actually understand the vagueness with which Mr. Durate answers questions. Everybody knows that there's theft of cable. So is it only a matter for the for the criminal justice system to deal with? Does Mr. Durate have a plan to deal with that through technology or other means? So that we move forward. We have to move forward.
Ms. Durate, I want to come in then. Please feel free to call me Kathy. You know, this issue of sabotage has been denied by the Eskom CEO. He says, the minister talks about external interferences and wasn't very clear on what those external interferences were. Andre Durate said very clearly that it is not necessarily referencing sabotage, but rather incidents such as cable theft, like you're mentioning. So where does the ANC then get the information that makes it bold enough to go out to South Africans and say that they are deliberate acts of sabotage within Eskom? What is informing that opinion?
Well, stealing cable is a deliberate act of sabotage. Burning out a mini substation or denuding it of its ability to work is an act of sabotage. Stealing illegal connections, that is also an act of sabotage, Kathy, because then you can't go on. So I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to look for a political angle. I don't have one.
But Ms. Durate, your statement, sorry to come in there. Let me just read what your statement says. Your statement says, given the inconsistency in information and assurance received from the utility, the ANC is by all intents and purposes quite concerned that these acts may be deliberate actions of some within Eskom for political ends. That's what your statement says.
Kathy, if somebody does not look after a valve, which is his or her job to do, okay, and that valve, I don't know, I'm not technical, causes a lot of megawatts to disappear, and that person, that's the job they do every day, and they don't do any other job. They watch that valve. Is that not a deliberate act of sabotage?
Yes, but I'm pointing to the issue of political ends, because you're saying I'm trying to take it in the direction of politics, whereas it is the ANC statement itself that says that these acts, it believes, are being carried out for political ends.
It's an assumption we're making, Kathy, because nobody's giving us clear answers. You know, if somebody can give us a clear answer, and give everybody a clear answer and say that as the Eskom management, we are dealing with the management within our plants to make sure that they do their jobs. We are making sure that we escalate the maintenance program to such an extent that it does work. We're making sure that we deal with what happened at Kusile and Medupi properly, and this is the timeline and the time frames. So, you know, I can go on and on and on. Unless we get answers, we're going to be like the rest of the public, and we're going to say these are acts of sabotage. We are saying that, and we're saying to the Eskom management, please get your house in order. Please be accountable. Please explain. Don't send an SMS alert at 11:30 this morning, and you inform the public that from 12 o'clock onwards there will be stage 4 load shedding. That sends a completely mystifying message. You ask yourself, what's happening? The question we asked this morning is what's going on inside Eskom. So, Kathy, I think I would like to rest it there and say that I cannot give you that there's a huge conspiracy. I don't know. What I do believe we are saying is that there is a problem within the Eskom management and its structures. Why is it that somebody could so easily allow a valve to burn? Oh, I don't know if it burnt out or it exploded. I have no idea, but it caused load shedding. You know, and where did the 2,000 megawatts come from overnight? After we complained, and we did raise the matter. And I must say, to the credit of Minister Gordhan, he responded immediately. And as he did tonight, he didn't waste time.
So Ms. Durate, here's the difficulty, right? South Africans have found themselves in a position where load shedding has become commonplace in our society. So, yes, there will be a great deal of distress. People are frustrated and angry, rightfully so. But it's not the first time, where we are facing load shedding. Let's talk about the response that you as the ANC have taken this time around. And I'm making inferences here, and you can then respond to the inference that I'm making. Is the ANC responding in the way that it is to the current bout of load shedding? Because we are literally 4 days away from an election, and you are worried about what this is going to do for the party going into the 1st of November, and you want to be seen to be on the side of South Africans right now.
Kathy, with respect, and I really say so very respectfully, I think your inference is rather insulting to the ANC. If there's load shedding on the 1st of November, there will be no election. Every South African will suffer. So it's not us wanting to look good in the eyes of people, but we are raising this matter because we are concerned. And I think that our right to be concerned cannot be seen as a sinister ploy to try to look good in the eyes of people to get votes. If there's load shedding on Monday, there will be no election. And our responsibility must be, as a governing party, to ensure that there will not be load shedding, that we speak to the responsible cabinet minister and say, look, this cannot happen, fix it, so that there is no load shedding. We could have kept very quiet, Kathy, and not said a word, and still, try to convince and do what we need to do. So no, Kathy, no. I think we've raised the issue of the energy mix many, many times as the ANC, of making sure that we do get around to looking at other forms of energy. We cannot rely purely on coal for the rest of our lives. But the important thing is, whether we or you or anybody else wants to hear this or not, we need reliable energy in this country to enable small to medium business enterprises to grow. I can also tell you, when there's no energy, Kathy, from where I come from and where I've walked and worked, and I do, water doesn't come into houses because the pumps don't work. The sewage cleansing plants don't work, etc., etc. So when there's no electricity, it has a huge downward spiraling effect on everybody.
Sure.
So I'm sorry, but I don't agree with your inference. I think it's a bit cynical, but you have a right. You have a right to be cynical. You're a journalist.
That's fair enough, Ms. Durate. I want to go back to a statement that you made a little earlier in the interview. You talked about the fact that for months and months on end, there's been lack of communication from Eskom and its management. And you seem to place the accountability aspect of this conversation solely with the management of Eskom, and you seem to question whether or not, in fact, we have the right people in charge right now running Eskom. So let's talk then about this process of accountability. When last did the ANC, as you have done today, call the minister in charge who has the oversight role over Eskom to actually come and account to you?
Kathy, Minister Gordhan does account, and I think I want to be very clear about that. Also, we are not saying that there's anything that the management in Eskom or Andre, there's something wrong with Andre Durate. I don't want to go there. What we're saying is there must be collective responsibility by the management of Eskom for the conditions that Eskom finds itself in now. It's been a while since Mr. Durate has taken over the helm at Eskom, and surely by now understanding the problem means you must have solutions. What we don't know is what those solutions are. We also, early in August, had similar conversations. You might recall that immediately after the violence that took place in Phoenix and the blocking of roads and so forth, there was load shedding began in earnest. And we were concerned then that we should not see this escalating, And the explanation we got was that it was the maintenance of the plants that were creating the load shedding, and it would soon end. We never expected to go to a level 4 load shedding, and that's why we made contact with Comrade Praveen Gordon today, and he did respond.
Yeah. Just apologies.
Yeah, August is just a few months ago, Kathy, and I think that's not so far away.
As far as you're concerned, then, Ms. Durate, there are, of course, many people in this country who are questioning whether or not we do have the right management, and just this question of accountability. Are we getting the right answers? Do we have the right people in charge? From the ANC's perspective, is Andre Durate still the right man to lead Eskom, firstly? And do you believe that the Public Enterprises Minister, as he has said tonight, does have a limited role when it comes to the level of responsibility that he can take for the current failures at Eskom?
Yes, thanks, Kathy. I thought we were going to discuss the ANC's barometer, but I'm quite happy to continue this conversation along these lines with you. We have not discussed whether Mr. Durate is the wrong or the right person. What we have discussed is whether what should be done. What is going on in Eskom is our primary question, and what is Eskom going to do about what Mr. Durate talks about, consequences at a senior management level? When will we see that happening? When will we see a direct change and not just a complaint about the problem, but what is the plan to solve the problem? Ministers of the state-owned enterprises do have a limited role to play because there's a board which has an executive authority role, and they play a much bigger role in the day-to-day operational difficulties of Eskom than the minister would. He's a policymaker. He is accountable, of course, but ultimately the buck must stop with a management team that understands the problem and is not able to articulate it, so that we are left, all of us are left in the dark, literally. Sure. And we don't understand, for instance, Kathy, you must agree with me. How do you put out a message at 11:30 this morning?
Sure.
And you say we're going to go to level 4 at from 12 o'clock onwards, within a half an hour. So the assumption is, what is the crisis? What happened? So we are very grateful that the minister said there will be no load shedding on election day. That gives us a great deal of comfort. But the comfort we don't yet have is what's going on inside of Eskom. What is this thing that is happening with management that Mr. Durate knows that must be fixed, that we should all know? Because this is it's a public good. Eskom is a public good.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it there for tonight. I'm happy to have you back tomorrow evening to talk about the barometer that the ANC has set. Unfortunately, we haven't had enough time for our conversation for tonight. That's why we'll have to leave.